What's up you guys, Perry from Rockville here, and today I'm going to teach you how to set up your RBG15S 15-inch powered subwoofer. This is the perfect sub to add the low end for any live performances, DJ events, band rehearsals, and much more. So as you can see, it comes with the subwoofer itself along with a power cable. There's also a 35mm pole socket on the top of the sub that we can use to mount a pole for our speakers. There's also a handle on each side of our subwoofer that we can use to bring it to any gig or event. Now let me take you through the controls of our sub. Starting with the level knob, this is what we're going to want to use to set the level coming out of the subwoofer. Next we have the digital signal processor, which will allow us to adjust the DX sub and the low pass filter. Now the DX sub allows us to boost the bass by 3 dB if we have the switch flipped all the way up. If we have it flipped all the way to the bottom, we can extend the low frequency range, or we can keep it in the middle for an even low end. And below that we have the low pass filter. We have 3 options for 80 Hz, 100 Hz, and 120 Hz. Now depending on what filter we have it set on, anything below those frequencies is what we're going to be hearing coming out of the sub. For example, if we have it set at 80 Hz, we're going to hear everything from 80 Hz below coming out of the subwoofer. We can use the low pass filter and the DX sub together depending on what kind of sound we want to get out of our sub. Next we have the polarity switch. We would want to use this to reverse the polarity of our subwoofer to better sync up with our speakers depending on the placement. Now let's talk about the different LED lights here on our sub. The power light will tell us when our subwoofer is turned on. The signal light will tell us when the signal is coming into the sub. The clip light will tell us when the sub has reached peak volume or if the volume comes out super loud or distorted. And the limit light will tell us when the built-in limiter starts to kick in to protect the speaker from peaking. And finally, we have a button that can turn the front LED light on and off. Now the RBG15S has 2 combo input jacks that we can use with XLR or 1/4 inch connections. Below that we have 2 XLR outputs that we can use to connect to speakers or additional subwoofers. And on top we have an RCA line input that we can use to connect anything with an RCA output. Now one of the ways we can set up our subwoofer is with a powered speaker. So let me show you how to set that up now. Alright, so here I have the Titan 12 powered PA speaker that I'm going to connect to my subwoofer. And you may have noticed we're using the RSP36 to hold the speaker up with our sub. This is a great setup if we're using a speaker and the subwoofer together for any live performance or DJ setup. So now to connect my subwoofer and my speaker, I'm going to need an XLR cable. I'm going to take the female end and plug it to the output of my speaker. Then I'm going to take the male end and plug it into the left XLR input on my sub. So now to test out our setup, I'm going to play music from my phone, which is connected through Bluetooth to my speaker. So let's hear how it sounds. Woo! Oh man, that low end is crazy. With the speakers together, it makes a nice blend of sound. Definitely filling out the room. So this is a great, quick and easy setup for additional low end for just our one speaker alone. We can also use the sub with 2 active speakers and a passive mixer for a bigger setup. So let me show you that next. Alright, so here I have my passive mixer and my 2 speakers that I'm going to be connecting to my subwoofer. And as you can see, I mounted my 2 speakers off one pole using the DP mount. So first I'm going to connect my mixer to the subwoofer using 2 XLR cables. I'm going to take the female ends and plug them into the main left and right XLR outputs on our mixer. Then I'm going to take the male ends and plug them into the XLR inputs on our sub. So now to connect my subwoofer to our speakers, I'm going to take 2 more XLR cables. I'm going to take my female ends and plug them into the left and right XLR outputs on our subwoofer. Then I'm going to take the male ends and plug my right cable into my right speaker and the left cable into my left speaker. So now that I've got everything connected, I'm going to go ahead and turn on my mixer, then I'll turn on my subwoofer, and then I'll turn on my 2 speakers. So next I'll raise the level knob on my subwoofer, then I'll raise the line level knobs on my speakers. We'll then raise the main left and right faders on the mixer. And now since I have my phone connected to one of the channels on our mixer for playback, I'm gonna raise the level for that channel. So let's hear how everything sounds with this setup. Woo! It definitely makes a big difference with the 2 speakers together. More high end, and you're still getting plenty of bass from the sub. Feeling it right in my chest there. Oh man, great setup. So one last setup I want to show you guys is the mixer, the 2 speakers, and an additional subwoofer. So let me show you how to set that up next. Alright, so here we have our additional sub that we're going to connect to our whole setup from before. So similar to our last setup, we're going to need two XLR cables to plug in from our mixer to our two subs. So we'll plug the female ends into the main left and right outputs of our mixer. So then we'll take the XLR connected to the right output and plug it into the right input of our subwoofer. Then we'll take the XLR cable that's connected to the left output and plug that into the left input on our second sub. Next, we'll take the two XLR cables to plug our subs to our speakers. So for the sub and the speaker on the right side, we'll take the female end of our XLR cable, plug it into the right output of our subwoofer, then plug the other end into the input on our speaker. And then similar thing for our left side, we'll take the female end and plug it into the left output of our sub, and then take the other end and plug it into the input of our speaker. So again, we'll want to start by turning on our mixer, then we'll turn on our two subs, and then we'll turn on both speakers. Then we'll raise the level knobs on our subwoofers, then raise the level on our two speakers. Next, we'll raise the main left and right outputs on our mixer, and again, we'll raise the level of the channel we're using to test out our setup. So now let's hear how this monstrous setup sounds all together. Oh my gosh. With the two subs, I can't even hear myself because of how loud everything is. Oh man. So much bass. All the bass. I love it. So hopefully this showed you guys how easy it is to set up your RBG15S 15-inch powered subwoofers. But of course, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, feel free to reach out to our customer support team through phone or email. As always guys, I'm Perry from Rockville, and we'll see you next time.